Well, hello and welcome in right now. It's July 10th, and we're continuing to pay attention to another severe weather threat continuing. We're probably going to have our normal weather live stream tonight that we are starting off, but right now we actually do have a couple tornado warnings that I do want to kind of get to, kind of our biggest issue currently right now. That is why I am on the live currently for a little bit here. Probably won't be too long of a live, but we do have a major issue continuing. So wanting to keep an eye out on some of these storms right now. This is a little bit random here at 3:26 p.m. We're going to still have our live video update at 8:30 tonight here, but I just want to say right now we do have a tornado watch still continues on for majority of Vermont, really almost all of New York. New York is definitely the one that is getting hammered in this severe weather threat today, so I want to keep an eye out on that really closely here. But let's head into some of these tornado warnings, because really we're starting to see some tornadoes really be a big issue here. Keep an eye out on this really quickly. Radar indicated tornado right here for this one. This storm continues to pose a pretty big severe weather threat, continue to move off to the northeast here. We want to keep an eye out on some of this because the rotations have definitely looked somewhat pretty impressive today that we have seen in these tornado warnings. Seems like our velocity signature maybe not working. So velocity signature might not be working on this radar here, so we might have to move to a different radar right now. But the good news is it does say that all the tornado warnings are radar indicated, so we're going to continue to make sure that stays radar indicated. We're going to want to make sure it stays radar indicated. But right now you can clearly see a very large storm right now crossing over the Interstate 90 region right here, heading into the velocity signature. There it is. Right now you can actually clearly see that there could possibly be two rotations, one just south of or Interstate 90, and then one right on top of Interstate 90. So I want to keep an eye out on that very closely here, as New York is a very populated state here, so this is going to be most likely heading for a lot of people. So this is radar indicated still. It is moving east here at 30 miles an hour, so we're going to keep an eye out on some of that right now. We're going to draw this out really quickly here. 30 miles an hour for this storm. You can clearly see population 19,000 people are possibly in this path of this storm right here. And same thing with this one, where we could be even seeing more people involved with this storm, as well as there is two rotations, pretty tight rotations on the ground. Could we see a potential tornado possible? Potentially. It does seem like it is getting a little bit more broad here, the correlation coefficient. Not showing too much, but we could be having a tornado on the ground right now, and this kind of has one of those classic type hook echoes. It has like those wings there. Keeping an eye out on that very closely as this continues, because this is headed right now over Interstate 90, so I want to keep an eye out on that very closely here. It's not just that these tornado warnings are continuing on right now, it's that even though we have the tornado warnings really all in this area here, the severe thunderstorm warnings are clearly are actually bringing tornadoes possible. So it all is starting at that time specifically right now. So taking a look here at this storm right here, it does seem like this is in northern. Whoopsies. We'll go to this one really quickly here, but that's the same storm that we just looked at. This one, though, up here, wanted to keep an eye out on this one really quickly. This has 30 minutes remaining. Very large storm. Still majority of the storm out into the water here, but want to keep an eye out as this storm is moving off to the northeast as well. And we just want to keep an eye out on that really closely here. Radar indicated rotation there, and you can clearly see a near Fairhaven Beach State Park capable of producing a tornado. northeast at 45 miles an hour. So if we head on over here to the velocity signature, possible maybe some rotation sitting right in there. We can see some possible rotation there, and you can clearly see they just updated the tornado warning here. Continues to push off to the northeast. So just in case if this does put down a tornado, we could definitely be seeing this storm heading right through Oswego over here. Want to keep an eye out on that, because this could be heading for a little bit of a populated area. 50,000 people could be in this possible tornado threat, or in the path of this tornado here. So we want to keep an eye out on that. This isn't crossing really any big main roads, so that is at least some type of good news here. The question is, do we have a correlation coefficient on the ground here? We're not seeing that on the ground, a correlation coefficient. So that's some good news that we are not seeing that right now. So continuing to watch these tornado warnings. This is the one that's really kind of concerning right here, is this one right here. This storm right now that could potentially, if we get when we get an update to that one, we'll definitely go right back to that. This storm has a tornado possible tag on it, so let's just take a look at this one, because this one does seem like it's trying to actually, get its act together here with a potential hook echo. Could be seeing something keep forming over here. The velocity signature pushing right here is that rotation, getting ready to cross over I-99 here. This could be actually headed for Painted Post, this little town right here, and cross over Interstate 86 in the future. So this could be potentially pushing off to the northeast here. Just paying attention to that one very closely here. But as we go on throughout the next couple hours, this is going to be our storms that we want to also pay attention to. We want to continue to watch some of these storms that are going to continue to really just start popping up in certain areas here. So let's head back over here to this tornado warning, because this one I really have my eye on, where we could be possibly seeing a tornado on the ground. Looking for that radar site. There it is. I guess we're just going to stick with this one right here. So, continuing to watch this really closely here. This is a very, very strong, powerful storm right now going through this area. It seems like if we head back to the velocities, let's take a look at the rotation. You can see clearly we have that rotation still continuing, just hugging to the east of I-90, continuing to push up to the northeast here. Whoops. Oh, there we go. Brand new update and scan. Still seeing those two rotations in two areas here, pushing in the same direction northeast as well. So want to keep an eye out on this storm very closely here. We haven't seen any new tag or anything like that on this, so I guess that is some good news that we're not seeing. But let's also go over here to this one, because tornado is possible with this one. We're just knocking each one out. This one does have a flash flood warning as well. This is the first flash flood warning I've seen of the day. But heading into the velocity signature here, we're going to keep an eye out on this. You can possibly see some rotation sitting right in there. So if that does get any tighter, we could be seeing a potential tornado warning put with this storm here. So please make sure, if you are definitely driving through any of these tornado warnings, that you are continuing to watch and see, and you're listening to weather updates, because this could be definitely pretty interesting as we continue to watch some of these storms continue. So right now, severe thunderstorm warning going down here. There is no possibility of a tornado, but we're still going to take a look at it here. There's that storm right there. It was a little storm that went past and another little storm that went past, but this is our storm down here right now. Just east to the Roaring Spring here, it does seem like that's that storm right there. The velocity signature not really showing a lot of possibility here on a rotation forming or a tornado forming. So really just keeping an eye out on certain areas right now here. As we continue to watch the severe weather threat going on throughout the night, we still have that tornado watch, but I kind of want to get into the future radar here to see what could we expect going on throughout the rest of the night tonight. Could we be seeing a lot going on? Well, you can clearly see over the next hour, or over this hour, we've seen several storms kind of just been all over the place here. Very, very scattered storms are continuing. Then we head into 5 p.m. later today. We could be seeing a potentially dangerous area right here. still forming. So we do actually have still that 9 p.m. Eastern time tornado watch. So that is 9 until 9 p.m. here. If we go to 7, so this is 9 p.m. the outlook for 9 p.m. Look at this big line right here that you can clearly see of the dangerous storms here. So this could become a gust front here for parts of the Northeast. So as we're watching this very closely, these pink areas could be potential very, very strong storms. Some possible hail could continue, but we have a pretty good amount of chance for tornadoes. So I'm going to say they could extend a new tornado watch in the future. We will have to definitely take a look, but we'll have to see. These tornado right now, the only tornado warnings that I'm really too focused on is these two right here, because we've actually seen 2 rotations with this one specifically. So we're wanting to keep an eye out, obviously, on this one right now. Currently, want to keep an eye out on that because, you know, we're just really paying attention to several storms that are continuing on right now. So we have a lot of going on right now. Taking a look at a little bit of the little spots here. These are all these storm chasers that are really on here. This is a storm. All these green dots right here are storm spotters, and they're all in this storm right now pretty closely here, trying to see if we do have any potential any tornadoes possible on the ground. I'm trying to get a live video pulled up here. Having a little bit of issues here, but we'll pay attention to that in a little bit here. All right, so heading back into this tornado warning specifically area, because this is a big storm that we're continuing to watch really closely here. The velocity, a little bit of a change with this radar. I don't know if this is the exact same radar. I think this is a different radar. So let me try to see here. So this is including, yeah, so here's the better radar here. Let's zoom in a little bit more here. So there's one rotation right over there. So possibly going right over Weed Sport, continuing to push off to the northeast here. And then we have another smaller rotation, seems like, continuing to push off to the northeast as well. It's just west of State Highway. It's right in between State Highway and I-90. Very close signatures, pretty close together here. And the correlation coefficient, we could be actually possibly seeing some tornado actually on the ground right now. So we want to keep an eye out on this. Keeping an eye out on that right now. I'm looking and seeing if there's any updates from the National Weather Service tornado here. Waiting for a brand new update from that, because we could be seeing a possible tornado actually on the ground. So we could be seeing a potential tornado on the ground currently. This is a very, very big situation that we're continuing to watch. Continuing to watch this massive storm continue to push out to the northeast. So we're going to continue to watch the majority of these storms, obviously, throughout the night here. And if it really gets bad overnight, we will be up. I will be up all night tracking some of these storms. So I'm a little surprised that this storm is not being tracked very well by that radar over there. But tornado warning still continues here for this one. Very, very, very broad type of rotation, I would say. But as you can see, it seems like it's getting very tight. It is going over a mountain right now, so that is something a little bit harder for it to start forming up here, but pushing off to the northeast as well. Majority of these storms are just going to push off to the east or northeast here. This is moving east at 25, so if we draw that right now, if we draw that 25 miles an hour here, you can see 2,000 people are in this path, really, because it's majority of this tornado warning is majority of mountains. So that's at least some type of good news that we're not seeing any towns or cities being hit right now. Syracuse definitely was getting close. Like, as you can see, western Syracuse is right now under several tornado warnings over here, and just west of Syracuse. That's why I have been watching these storms very closely over the past hour. So taking a look here at the velocity signature once again. Let me head back into it. I don't know if this is the radar we're currently using. Nope, not yet. So right now, taking a look at this. So still very broad rotation, still continuing on, very, very broad. Continuing to push off to the east here. Yeah, moving off to the east at 40 miles an hour. So a little bit more here of an interesting situation could be happening. It does say this includes Interstate 90 near exit 40. This is the issue. At 3:20, a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located near Montezuma. I don't know exactly how to say that. Or named Sensina Falls, moving northeast at 45. So, lots of lightning with this storm, but want to keep an eye out on that. The correlation coefficient was pulling up on something here. Not too much going on right now, except for over here, just on the other side of I-90. So really a lot to be paying attention to. And then we have this potential storms over here. Could these form something out of these storms here? Could this start something from these storms? I know Buffalo really got some storms earlier this morning here, but could we see any rotations in this? We potentially could. So the question really is how bad does these weather get throughout the night, and what could we be expecting over the next couple of hours in the nighttime? So Iowa's actually dealing with some severe thunderstorm warnings right now. Currently, later tonight in my later stream tonight, we'll be talking about this new area of interest over here, just off the east coast of Florida. We're going to keep an eye on that. And now we got a brand new radar indicated tornado warning still continuing on right here. So, and this is including downtown Syracuse. So, keeping an eye on this storm very closely, as downtown Syracuse could be definitely seeing a potential storm here in the future. So let's get an eye to this one really quickly here. So brand new storm right now. This is for 33 minutes. We have a brand new tornado warning that has just been issued for pretty much downtown Syracuse. This could be heading just north of Syracuse, but could be definitely seeing some type of issue here in a little bit for Syracuse. So we're keeping an eye on all of this continuing on right now. As we're watching these storms very closely here, we're wanting to keep an eye out on the severe weather here. Oopsies. Trying to get everything fixed here. It's having a little bit of issues, it seems, but having a little bit of issues. But paying attention to this storm right now, as Syracuse is still is now just under this tornado warning here. Do we see any correlation coefficient? Not necessarily, but definitely seeing a large storm expected to head through the Syracuse area. So we could be definitely seeing something through the Syracuse area. This is a dangerous storm right now pushing through. It's going to take a pretty good amount of time until it gets to Syracuse, so still have time to get shelter. But definitely, if you are in this tornado warning, please be taking shelter, because this could be a big issue here that we want to keep an eye out on very closely. Man, we are watching this storm very closely here. Watching this storm very closely. The question is do we see any tornado possibly on the ground here? Will it get its act together to see a tornado possibly form on the ground? Yep. So, continuing to watch this storm really closely here. There's your potential rotation here. Very broad type of rotation, but definitely some strong winds are going to be expected as this storm is a little bit of ways off. So it does seem like it could be possibly weakening here for Syracuse. We could be seeing a little bit more of a weakening system right now. So that's at least the good news, that we're not focused on that as much right now. But keeping an eye out on this storm right now as it's potentially headed for Syracuse. So if you are in Syracuse, please go into yourself, into a safe shelter here immediately, because this storm could potentially drop a tornado here in the future. We're going to keep an eye out on some of this problems right now. So it does seem like, we still have these tornadoes that are going to be possible throughout the night, and we're just going to see several severe thunderstorm warnings pop up in this area throughout the rest of the next couple of hours, and we're going to see the potential for any tornadoes to continue forming as that tornado watch still continues until 9 p.m. Eastern time tonight here. But I think the storm is starting to weaken down, maybe just a little bit here. Actually, it might be getting a little bit more intense here. This is the rotation for this northern tornado warning, but I think that this one's going to cross over here, into this one really closely here. It kind of cross over the border into the next tornado warning over here, still hugging Interstate 90. So I want to keep an eye out on that. So especially if you were driving on Interstate 90, you want to make sure you are staying off of the roads here, because Interstate 90, definitely you do not want to get trapped in this at all. Correlation coefficient, we're still keeping an eye on that. Nothing too big pops out in my eye. But keeping an eye out on this. I mean, Syracuse, you're really going to be in the path of this storm right now. The question is where does the storm exactly go here? Taking a look at this, it's moving east at 35 miles an hour. So if we draw this out really quickly here, draw this storm out at 35 miles an hour, we could be seeing a potentially 137,000 people in this storm right now, because this is including some of the suburbs over here. This could potentially go a little bit off and maybe go into northern Syracuse. That is what we're paying attention to right now. We're going to keep an eye out on this storm very, very closely here, as this could drop a tornado. We are hoping it's not going to drop a tornado, and then maybe look at this storm behind it. This could be another issue for another severe thunderstorm. It's not seeming like it's having any rotation, but we could see maybe a severe thunderstorm warning pop up because of this storm here. Could it really just start to form into something? It possibly could, but right now we're not paying attention to that. A little bit of a line over here as well. A little bit of a line going over here through Rochester. Wanting to keep an eye out on that, because some of these storms will continue to push off through maybe the same areas that are already getting hit with these storms right now. So there is still that tornado warning right up over here over the mountain area, but we're not paying attention to that one as much right now due to the really just the threat of this storm right here. Want to keep an eye out on this one really closely here. It does seem like right now, if we really zoom in over here to Syracuse University, head into the velocity signature here. Whoopsies. Let's head back into the other. Whoops, that's the wrong tornado warning. Should be the 26-minute one, I believe. Oh, look at that. Is this a newer? Yep, this is a brand new tornado warning. So, brand new tornado warning right now continues on. We have a brand new tornado warning. We remember the severe thunderstorm warning did have that tornado possible tag on it, so we're going to keep an eye out on that very closely, because it does seem like now we have that tornado. So, radar indicated a tornado possibly here. This is the National Weather Service and State College, PA, has now issued this tornado moving northeast at 30 miles an hour. So moving at a pretty decent speed is half these storms here. But the velocity signature right here in the back is that possible rotation sitting right in there. The northeastward motion, it seems like it's going to be taking. at 35 miles an hour. Let's take a look here. 255 people live in this tornado warning, so we're going to keep an eye out on that very closely as it continues to push off to the northeast here. You can see Antrim and Duncan, you guys are in the path of the storm, it does seem like, so please be making sure you are getting into your shelter immediately and as soon as possible as the storm continues to move on off. This one over here to the north still has that potential over here for a potential tornado warning to possibly come out of that here, but 10 minutes remaining. It does seem like the storm has definitely weakened a pretty good amount here, so that is at least some type of good news. But every time we have a tornado possible tag, we're going to look at the velocity signature and all of that. Very large storm potentially up here still continuing. Very large storm, lots of lightning continuing on over here where High Peaks Wilderness is and Mount Redfield. Velocity signature, not really too much, I would say. It does seem like that rotation's right there on the border of it, continuing to push off to the east. So I want to keep an eye out on that very closely here, as that's not really impacting too many people right now. But this storm, though, this is a whole different system that we could be seeing right over here, where we could be seeing a potentially dangerous situation here with the rotation. So the storm is starting to get closer and closer to the suburbs over here. The suburbs over here of, whoopsies, of the suburbs over here in Syracuse. So downtown Syracuse is right here. Majority of the interstates, we have Interstate 81 going through there, I-90 going north of Syracuse, Interstate 690, and Interstate 481. We want to keep an eye out on this right now for really just this tornado warning continuing on. This is going to go north of Syracuse University, so that is at least, you know, it's not going to aim for the university. The university is not in it exactly, in the tornado warning exactly, but the velocity signature, I would say the rotation sitting right in there right now, and it's pushing off over here to the east. So the storm is moving at a pretty decent pace here as we're continuing to watch it very closely here. But actually, when I head in over here to a map that I kind of like, the hydrometer classification, you can clearly see, you know, this large green right in these areas right here is large and big hail, or not hail, is heavy rain. The red is the hail, so if the hail is definitely headed in your area or you're over it, you definitely want to keep an eye out on some of these issues right now, because it could be a potentially dangerous situation for some potential big hail, especially if you are driving over the Interstate 90 right now. So I want to keep an eye out on that very closely. But right now, if you're just joining in, clearly paying attention, Syracuse, you are now under a tornado warning as the storm is continuing to push off over here to the east. And we're getting some brand new radar scans in and everything. The velocity signature, tornado rotation sitting in about right in here, probably right over around State Highway 5. So I want to keep an eye on that very closely. If you are in this path, please do not be driving through any tornado, because obviously that would not be good. So heading up over here to this tornado warning, because haven't checked on this one in a little bit here. Velocity signature still a little bit tight over here, a little bit more broad actually over New Haven area. Does seem like this is gonna continue to probably push off over here into State Highway 104B. I want to keep an eye out on that right now. It is pretty close to the water, so, but you can definitely see it kind of on the high-res, you know, radar. It seems it has a backwards type hook, so we could be definitely seeing a little bit of rotation. Will they expand a tornado warning here, as there's only 8 minutes remaining? We could, but we'll definitely have to pay attention to that one very closely here. Syracuse still under that tornado warning. We're going to continue to pay attention to that one. This tornado warning down here still continues for this supercell over here. 21 minutes remaining for this storm, and there's that rotation right there. Could it get a little bit more intense? It could, but we're going to keep an eye on this. This is going to go south of Wellsboro. This is aiming for Antrim, and Duncan is in the next way over here. But if this does survive, it could potentially go over US 15 and south of Mansfield. The correlation coefficient doesn't seem like we're having too much. It's a little bit of a very, very big signal, so I would say there's probably not a tornado on the ground right now, but obviously if you're under a severe thunderstorm warning anyways, we're going to see some pretty big storms continuing on. So this severe thunderstorm warning right here, let me take a look at this one because I haven't checked out on this one really. I think it just popped up. 50 minutes tornado is possible with this severe storm right here, and look at that, very, very possible tight rotation sitting in right over here. This is just north of Interlaken. We could be seeing a potential tornado threat continue on over here. State Route 34 needs to be on the lookout for this storm as it continues to move off here. So we need to be paying attention to this one very closely. The correlation coefficient not picking up enough for it to probably be more of a signature of a tornado being on the ground, but we're going to keep an eye out on this storm because we could possibly be seeing a tornado warning for this storm pretty soon if that rotation keeps up. So heading back over here to Syracuse. 19 minutes still remaining in this tornado warning. Velocity signature looking a little bit on this radar scan here, a little bit more of a broad type, and we've been seeing this for a pretty good amount of time here, but this is going to continue to push off over here. So want to keep an eye out on this one very closely as it's going to be possibly heading right over northern Syracuse. So if you are in northern Syracuse, you want to be keeping an eye out on this storm very closely because this could be a dangerous situation that unfolds. We're going to keep an eye out on some of these updates as well. These updates are going to continue to come on in from the storm prediction or the National Weather Service and the Storm Prediction Center. We're still keeping it on a enhanced risk severe weather threats. So, and look at this. We could be seeing a little bit more here of the last scan that we just had here. Let's go back into the 7 frames. I kind of want to take a look here at this storm. So it does seem like it could be possibly trying to get its act together and going into a tighter rotation here. So this could be right now being something pretty big to pay attention to. So rotation is over several little suburbs area, but this is going to potentially continue on. So Syracuse, you are in this way, northern Syracuse, you are in the path of the storm here. The velocity signature is actually trying to pick itself back up, so we could be definitely paying attention to a storm that could be forming a tornado and actually putting it on the ground right now. So still hugging Interstate 90. It seems still holding Interstate 90 right now. We want to continue to pay attention to that as this continues to push off over here to potentially northern Syracuse. So northern Syracuse, you need to be watching this storm very, very closely here. Heading into that velocity signature once again. We're paying attention to a potentially tornado on the ground right now over here. And we're going to continue to push it off over here to the northeast. Or it could be going northeast, or east-northeast here. It does seem like the National Weather Service is saying it's moving east at 40 miles an hour, so it could be heading more in that type of direction then, but very, very tight rotation starting to pop up here for Syracuse. The correlation coefficient not really picking up enough for a actual clear signature of it, but you know, could we see another tornado warning active after the storm? We potentially could, due to, you know, several storms continuing to be on the outlook here. We have a brand new severe thunderstorm warning down here. For this storm down here, this is pay attention to these ones. So we do have this tornado warning over here, severe thunderstorm warning right here, potential rotation is being felt in this one, and yeah, look at that. So possible rotation actually are sitting right in here. So we have a potentially situation over here. Potential rotation sitting in right now, continuing to push off over here to the northeast. Man, we are continuing to watch this very closely here. Gonna go over this probably for the next, you know, couple of minutes here. We're gonna keep an eye out on some of the severe weather threat. Yeah, and we're heading over here to this tornado warning right now. Clearly, velocity signature not showing too much. Maybe a little bit of something over Duncan though, so we want to keep an eye out on that storm very closely here. But an update to the Syracuse thunder, or you know, tornado warning right now. Heading back over to this radar really quickly here. So you can clearly see now we only have one tornado warning actually active over here. This is the northern part right now, so want to keep an eye out on that as well. as these storms are going to continue to push off over here to the east at 40 miles an hour is what we're continuing to pay attention to it. But this is what's scary right here. We could be seeing another tornado warning being active due to the storm right now. So let's keep an eye out on that really closely here. This is getting very intense of a storm here. I mean, this is Syracuse needs to take cover immediately. If you are in Syracuse, please be going into your safe space right now because this storm is headed just into northern Syracuse. So the suburbs of Syracuse are really going to get hit here by this storm. The question is are we waiting for a storm prediction center to, or not the storm prediction center, the National Weather Service to actually put a brand new tornado warning here for majority of the rest of Syracuse here in downtown Syracuse as well. Keeping an eye out on this storm very closely. This is a very, very intense storm that we're continuing to watch. Hopefully we are not seeing a tornado on the ground here, so that would be some good news if we don't see a tornado on the ground, especially since it's heading over a potential city, the northern part of a city here. Pretty big city. So still is not too far from Interstate 90 here. If we were to measure out how far it is off of Interstate 90, let me pull out this really quickly here out of Interstate 90. It's only about 2.18 miles away from Interstate 90, so want to keep an eye out on that. If you are on Interstate 90, this isn't impacting you necessarily, but if there is a tornado on the ground, some debris could be heading onto the road. So want to keep an eye out on that really closely. It's moving off to the east here, so we'll continue to push on over here to the east at 40 miles an hour. Interstate 690, we want to keep an eye out on you. If you are in Interstate 690, you have the potential for this storm coming right over your direction right now. It does seem like right now the storm is currently over. It is starting to get a little bit more of a broad type shape, but right now I would say it's over Garden Terrace, Edgewood Garden, Amboy. Right now you guys are now under the rotations right above you, so please be taking immediate shelter if you are in northern Syracuse as the storm is headed for your guys' directions. Please be taking some precautions here as it's heading into northern Syracuse, so I want to keep an eye out on that very closely. This is a dangerous storm continuing to push off over here to the east, so we're going to keep an eye out on that storm very closely right now. And then we have another possible rotation. This one, I'm surprised there is no tornado warning yet on it. Very, very strong rotation seems with this one. This could be a little bit more tighter than the one that is northern at Syracuse. This storm's pushing off over here to the east as well. Very, very strong rotation. So this will be heading over state, and there it is. Brand new tornado warning has now just been issued. We were waiting for it. We were just talking about it, and there's that tornado warning that has now just been issued with this storm. So we're going to keep an eye out on that one as well, and we do have this one down here that we want to keep an eye out on because we could be seeing some type of rotation trying to form itself back in here. But we have two tornado warnings that are our main focus right now, the one in Syracuse and the one that is now just down to the south here that has just been issued with us paying attention to it. This one has a pretty powerful type of rotation, actually a pretty tight rotation that we need to keep an eye out on very closely. So we're going to keep an eye out on some of these storms as well as we go on throughout the night here. I will be live later as well. We're going to wait until this storm starts to calm down maybe just a little bit more, and I will come back later on tonight. Very, very tight rotation still continuing on. Very, very kind of broader type rotation here in the northeastern or the northwestern part of Syracuse right now. This is expected to push off over here to the east. So if you are in the path of this, so Interstate 690, in the future, Interstate 90 and Interstate 81, this could head right over those interstates pretty closely here. This could be pushing itself right now, and there it is. So brand new tornado warning has now just been issued over here. Radar indicated, so this is still a radar indicated tornado. So there is no tornado on the ground. So that is at least some good news that we're not seeing any tornado actually on the ground right now as we're talking. This does include majority now of Syracuse, and we do have another tornado warning off to the north here. So we're starting to see a little bit more of the tornadoes starting to pop up once again here. So I want to keep an eye out on this really closely. So we have 4 active tornado warnings currently right now. Sorry about that. All right, continuing to watch this very closely as we are paying attention to still several tornado warnings active right now. We have this tornado warning that we're definitely going to keep an eye out on. Then we have a brand new tornado warning just over Interstate 81 here. Very large possible tornado is could form on the ground here soon for more of this storm. We'll talk about that one very shortly here. Maybe not large tornado, but we're going to keep an eye on it because it does have a very, very tight rotation. So right now, if we're paying attention to this tornado warning right over here, the new one, 38 minutes remaining for this tornado warning right now. Very, very tight rotation sitting right over there, a couple miles off of Interstate 81. This is going to continue to push off to the east here. Taking a look at this really quickly here, moving off to the northeast right here. So this is 40-mile-an-hour storm. This is how fast it is moving. 8,000 people are in this path, so you can clearly see Richland in 2 minutes, but really our main focus should be right now. Yeah, Richland is going to be in this, possibly Pulaski is going to be in this. So could we see a tornado possibly on the ground for the storm? Well, we possibly could, but we're hoping we don't. Heading into the correlation coefficient, maybe we could be seeing something small trying to start. This is going to cross over Interstate 81, so if you are driving over Interstate 81 right now, please pull over and stay safe from this storm here. Need to pull over. Do not pull under an overpass, because that is going to be one of the worst decisions you could make during a tornado storm right now. High winds will be expected with that, and possibly some large hail as well. Taking a look here at this tornado warning right now, this one, $half size hail, as you can clearly see. This storm having a pretty good rotation right now, sitting over Ledyard. So Ledyard, you have that rotation about right over you. We want to continue to look at this storm as it continues to push off over here to the east. So as the storm pushes off to the east, we're going to keep an eye out on that very closely. And look at this. We could be seeing a potential tornado actually on the ground right now. So the velocity signature is actually picking up on a potentially, whoopsies, wrong button, could be potentially bringing up some high winds in this region right here. That is some high winds that could potentially be a dangerous situation. So if you live in Ledyard, please be on the lookout for this storm really closely here, because this storm is continuing to push through your area. This tornado warning that we're continuing, and this is the reason why we're really keeping an eye out on some of these tornadoes here. We want to keep an eye out on this very closely here, because the velocity signature is still now back over here to 2 possible rotations. So this one's starting to die down a little bit, but this one could be potentially something to be paying attention to. This is more north. This is over Interstate 690, just north actually of Interstate 690, but continuing to move over probably Long Branch, and will continue to move off to the east here at 40 miles an hour. So a lot of people are in the path of these storms, though. Want to keep an eye out on that right now. Let's see who is in the path of the storm. 37,000 people could be in the path of the storm right now. Long Branch in 2 minutes, Elmcrest in 3, Woodard in 6 minutes. We want to pay attention. So please, if you live in Syracuse, take cover immediately. Now we're starting to potentially see a little bit here in the velocity signature, a little bit of a hook type of situation right here, a little bit of a hook situation. That means we need to take cover immediately, especially when you start seeing a hook on the radar. You want to take that. But if you are driving over here in Interstate 90, this storm right now is potentially heading right over Interstate 90. So we want to keep an eye out on this right now as these tornadoes are continuing to really start to ramp up, and we're going to continue to see several storms ramp up. The one over here to the north is continuing to ramp up as it is right now getting ready to cross over into Interstate 81. The velocity signature, look at how tight this rotation is. This is a pretty tight rotation sitting right in this storm right here. This seems to be probably just right over Pulaski and over Interstate 81, continuing to push over here to the northeast. So a little bit more to be paying attention to right now with this storm. So please be taking immediate cover if you are in this storm very closely here. Yeah, so Interstate 81, definitely want to be paying attention to that. Let's see if we have anything on the correlation coefficient. I mean, there's a lot of blue in this area, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's a tornado. It could just be a lot of interference here with the radar. But yeah, look at that. Pretty good inflow notch there, right there into the where the rotation is. As you can clearly see, that's where the rotation kind of is, right there over Interstate 81. So we could be definitely seeing something we want to pay attention to. So if you're just joining in, we are still paying attention to several other tornado warnings continuing on right now. We have several tornado warnings to watch right now. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tornado warnings continuing right now. So, pretty good amount of tornado warnings are going on right now, and this is all because of the aftermath of Beryl. So Beryl is still continuing to pose now a severe weather threat here into the northeast, and we're going to keep an eye out on some of this right now. So radar indicated some rotation on this storm right here. This is just northwest here of Millport. Pretty nice tight rotation sitting right in there, continuing to push off over here to the east here. If we continue to time this out, if the storm stays pretty tight as rotation, as we just got a brand new radar scan in, this could head over here, and we're continuing to get these radar scans in. Very tight rotation still continuing, so this could be heading over State Route 224. Pretty closely here. Odessa, Catherine, definitely get into your safe place immediately, as this storm could definitely be paying attention into several areas. We want to keep an eye out on this because this storm could definitely put a tornado on the ground. We haven't seen any observed tornadoes on the ground yet today, and that is some good news that we have right now. But we're continuing to watch these storms. In every severe thunderstorm warning that pops up, it has the tornado potential from it. It has that tornado possible tag. We're wanting to keep an eye out on. So heading to this northern tornado warning here, it does seem like we still have a little bit more of a tighter rotation sitting right over here. This storm definitely seems like this could be heading over 34th Street here. It does seem like it's just this is the storm that we're paying attention to. It's east of Ledyard now, continuing to push off over here to the east. So the question is will the National Weather Service issue another tornado warning for the path of this storm, as it does have a pretty tight rotation still on the table here? And then, we're heading back over here to Syracuse, continuing to pay attention to some interesting rotations. I mean, this is the most clearest rotation that really stands out in my eyes. This one right here going through the suburbs area. So this is actually right now in parts of northern Syracuse. This could be heading right over the Syracuse Hancock Airport. So this is getting very, very intense. A very intense storm right now on the ground. If we head over here to what the radar is picking up, a little bit of hail in this red over here in this area, a little bit of hail, but really just it seems to be in the green area where that tornado is, some heavy rain, which is usually common with these storms. So but look at this, you can clearly see how intensifying the storm is getting. It's intensifying, still continuing. So we could see another tornado warning form right over here by the Storm Prediction Center. and we're just going to keep seeing these tornado warnings start to form and form over the next coming of hours here. So we're going to keep an eye out on this one right now. The velocity signature on this one heading over to this radar. This one has a pretty, now starting to actually seems to get a little bit more broad, but this is a little bit over Interstate 81. So please, if you are driving on Interstate 81 in this specific area, please be pulling over and getting safe right now. So continuing to watch this storm very closely as this one's potentially moving off to the northeast here. This is going to go just south of Boylston here, and you can see this one's actually moving awfully quick. So there's that rotation continuing, still paying attention to this tornado warning as it continues to move off to the northeast here, and this could potentially head for the radar site if it lasts that long here. If it lasts that long, we will possibly see a tornado go over the radar site. We want to keep an eye out on that. You know, this is getting very intense here of a storm that we're paying attention to. So we're going to keep an eye out on this really closely. Here we go. Yep, so still that tornado warning still including Syracuse. That is our main focus right now due to it being in a potentially large city. So the velocity signature here continuing on. A little bit more on the broader type of end here as it continues to push off to the east. So Interstate 81, please prepare as you have already a storm all the way up there to the north, another storm headed right down to the south of that tornado that is possibly on the ground here. I do want to head back down to this tornado warning right here because this one is a little bit more interesting to be paying attention to. 2 inches in diameter and hail from this specific storm right here. And a very, very tight rotation is on the ground right now, continuing to push off over here to the east. And we just got a brand new radar scan in, very tight rotation still on the ground. The question is, you know, do we see any tornado actually on the ground? I mean, this is getting very, very tight of a rotation here. This is just heading over... this is heading over County Road 34. Could be seeing possibly something here to be paying attention to. But that's 2 inches in diameter with hail. So if we head on over here to the hydrometer classification, that red is that 2 inches in diameter of hail right now. So keeping an eye out on some of these storms right now. We're going to keep an eye out on this. If you have any questions, leave it in the chat down below. We have some pretty intense storms continuing on right now in Syracuse. We have some pretty good storms heading north of Syracuse as well. So a lot to be paying attention there. Radar indicated it's still that rotation over here in Syracuse. A little bit more of a interesting type of rotation, I would say here. But let's head on back down to this one because this one's a little bit more, you know, heading for a little bit more of a smaller town, I would say, in the future here. It does seem like I would say the rotation somewhere over here just south of Odessa. It does seem like the radar's kind of cutting off there, but if it continues on in its track here, potentially we could be definitely seeing it head into this city right here, this little town. Cornell University's in there, so please be keeping an eye out on this storm. But if you're in a tornado warning and you are, you know, watching these, you need to take cover immediately because these storms are having some pretty tight rotations, really. Especially some of these specific ones. This one over here has a pretty nice rotation with this one. It does seem like the good news is it's starting to become more broad here as it's going to continue to move south of Boylston. So Boylston, you're going to keep an eye on this storm really closely here as we could be seeing another tornado possibly form. So the question is, you know, how long are these storms going to continue on? It definitely seems like it can just potentially go on throughout the night. We have this severe thunderstorm warning over here. This is just south of Burlington over here. I just want to say that, you know, we have the considerable threat here, 70-mile-an-hour winds with the tornado still possible. This storm actually did produce a tornado earlier today, so paying attention to not any clear rotation, I would clearly say, but definitely some high winds in some specific areas. This area right here, more of those brighter areas have that higher stronger winds, and no matter what, even if you're under severe thunderstorm warning with a tornado tag, we definitely want to be keeping an eye out on that one very closely here. So, the storms with, that are hitting over here in northern Syracuse are continuing. The rotation still very, very broad. So the storm is weakening. So I do not know if the National Weather Service will issue another tornado warning due to this storm weakening. So that is at least some good news. But this is the storm now we're going to keep an eye out on really closely here. Both of these ones down here and the northern one. This one has velocity signature right here. Or not. The velocity signature is not wanting to work. I had this issue earlier too. There we go. Just got to zoom out. But look at this. So very, very possible still tight rotation continuing on. We could be seeing another tornado possibly form in this area right over here. We haven't had any tornadoes on the ground yet. So I'm glad that we haven't seen any of that yet. But definitely need to be keeping an eye out on some of these storms anyways, as we're continuing to watch. Some of these storms just continue to push off to the northeast. So keeping an eye out on some of these storms right now. Just watching these storms start to unfold. And unfortunately, we've been seeing a pretty good amount of rotations and tornadoes that have gone on today. Hopefully, we're not going to see any more storms get even worse as we go on throughout the next couple of hours here. Heading down here to this specific storm right now, the velocity signature, I would say it's probably more into the Odessa area, very broad. It did have, I believe, a little bit. I think this is the storm that did have a little bit of a tighter rotation earlier. Yeah, so it did down here. That's where that tighter little bit of rotation was, and now it is starting to weaken down. So that is at least some type of good news there. Syracuse, your storm's starting to die down very quickly. And then the tornado warning over here by Richland. Whoopsies. By Richland over here, this could be a pretty dangerous wind threat, especially, as these storms start to come in, you're going to feel the wind before the big storm even comes in. So that's why you should be taking cover right when you get under a tornado warning, especially if you know that tornado is headed for your direction right over here. So a little bit more of a broader type of rotation sitting in this area now, just still south of Boylston. Want to keep an eye out on that storm very closely, as it could, if it continues to move off in the direction, could potentially head right into where the forecast, or not the forecast, the radar cone is. The cone of silence is what they call it. So want to keep an eye out on that, because this storm could definitely knock it out too for a couple hours, depending on how strong the winds are. So a lot of storms that we're continuing to pay attention to. I just want to spin a little bit here since we talked about this really quickly. So let me pull up here the tornado watch right now. So yep, here's the tornado watch zone. So this is including down here into South Pennsylvania, all the way up here into Vermont and New Hampshire. Possibly could be getting into it later tonight. It depends on how the storms are. Could we see an update into the tornado watch? We could. But right now we still have until 9 p.m. Eastern time until this tornado watch expires. This is including several areas. So Syracuse still under that tornado. Albany. Several cities will be under this area for a tornado watch right now. 4 hours still remaining under this tornado watch. Seems like the severe thunderstorm watch is down here in this area down here, and we do actually have a brand new tornado warning that I want to get back into right now. I'm seeing it flashing on the screen really quickly, so let's get back into that, because this seems like we could be seeing another. And this is by this storm right here, just north of Cortland and Homer. Right now, a brand new tornado warning has now just been issued for this area right over here. So to the north. Oh, yeah, this could be our dangerous storm right now. Lime-sized hail, radar indicated still, Interstate 81. This is in the path of you. Very, very, very tight rotation right over here. Does seem like this is just northwest of Morava right now, so I want to keep an eye out on that very closely here. So as the storm continues, this could definitely pose a big threat to a lot of people. This is 2 inches in diameter of hail, so very likely we're going to be seeing some very, very big damage continuing on right now. So the storm is moving off to the northeast at 30 miles an hour. So if we do draw this and where it is headed, northeast 30 miles an hour. So this could definitely pose some people into the threat. 11,000 people are in this threat right now. 11,290 right now. Morse Mill in 10 minutes. Morse Mill in 10 minutes here. New Hope in 15. Sapford in 23. South Sapford in 25. We want to keep an eye out on this right now. And Tully could be in this, Tully in 35 minutes. So want to keep an eye out on this tornado right now, as this is a very strong type of a very, very strong storm. The 2 inches in diameter with hail. Very strong storm continuing on right now with this. So we want to keep an eye out on that very, very closely. So as we're continuing to pay attention to this tornado warning down here, we're going to continue to see it potentially in the future cross I-81. So if you are driving on Interstate 81, please be making sure you're paying attention to the storm very closely, especially if you're in a tornado warning. And I mean, it seems like the rotation keeps getting broad and then tight again, but continuing to push off over here to the northeast. So, we're keeping an eye out on this storm as it's pushing off to the northeast. We want to keep an eye on it because it will eventually cross Interstate 81. And once again, just north of Moravia here, a very large possible storm is on the ground here, especially with the diameter and hail. That you can start to see some of this darker red here that's starting to be getting into big hail right in this region right here. So it seems like, according to the radar, just southeast of Oak Hill is having some large hail, but all this red right here is hail. And when you take a look at all this right now, it's this pink area on the radar. That's how you know there's a very, very pretty good possibility of some strong hail continuing on right now. So this is the main tornado warning we're keeping an eye on right now. We can take a look at the Syracuse tornado warning. The velocity signature starting to show a little bit of something. Oh, and they just issued a new tornado warning. Man, I've been pretty lucky on clicking these storms, and their brand new tornado warning forms in. So 48 minutes for this one, and there's that rotation. It does seem like it's trying to get its act together. It is going to head over the Oneida Lake and continue to move off probably over here to the northeast. So keeping an eye on that. 48 minutes remaining for that tornado right there. So, and the radar's a little bit backed up, it seems, but a little bit of that radar hook echo is what we saw a little bit earlier. As the storm continued to push off over here to the north, to the east, I'm sorry. And then we have the velocity signature for this storm, starting to try to get itself back together over here. Definitely pushed a lot south, I would say. It seems like it's going pretty much pretty south of this box here, but we're expecting it to continue to push off over here. So some rotation is still continuing on in that area. So we're still having that rotation continue. We're not paying attention to, and look at this, we have a brand new tornado warning that's now just been issued over here. Oh, where'd it go? Tornado warning's gone over here for some reason in this area. No tornado warnings over there. So I guess we'll check out on that in a second here, and then we'll head over here back down to this tornado warning specifically. Yeah, so we could be definitely seeing something potentially form in here. This tornado warning, very broad rotation sitting in right now over here, pushing off over here. So we could be seeing something form, just a pretty big storm off to the north of where this hook is. So let's keep an eye out on more of this northern storm here. There's that brand new tornado warning. So new area right there. 2 tornado warnings have been active. I don't know why they just didn't put it into one, but there's always a good reason, I would say, with the National Weather Service. So, but want to keep an eye out on this storm right now. Very large hail is still continuing on the ground, and a very, very strong rotation. We're waiting for a update here from the National Weather Service on this tornado warning, because as long as we're keeping an eye out on this tornado warning right here, it's going to continue to push off over here to the northeast. This is pushing off to the northeast at 40 miles an hour. So keeping an eye on this right now. So if we draw out a track here, 40 miles an hour, population 8,000 people are in this. So right now this is right over northern Moravia here. New Hope in 8 minutes here. We got to keep an eye out on this storm very, very closely. It does seem, the good news is, after that brand new radar scan, it is starting to get a little bit more broad. So good news is it probably doesn't have a tornado on the ground. I feel like it could have had maybe a slight tornado on the ground here. It could have had maybe just a tiny tornado on the ground. because that was some pretty tight rotation. But now we have maybe a little bit of an issue with this storm. So this is a little bit of a separate storm here from, I would say, because of this storm. The velocity signature on this storm, the question is, could we see a rotation form out of here? And if we do, we're going to see another tornado head in the exact probably same area as this one that it just went through northern Moravia. So no tornado once again has been active and is on the ground today. So we haven't seen a lot of that today. So that's at least some good news there. But we still have some of these severe thunderstorm warnings. Right now we have this one down here in Pennsylvania, just northwest of Williamsport here, severe thunderstorm warning with some large winds and a potential tornado. So this could be the area to pay attention to, a potential tornado as it continues to move off over here to the northeast. So I want to keep an eye out on this storm. So any severe thunderstorm warning should be treated like a tornado warning due to the tag that it keeps having on the tornado possible region that we keep seeing with it. Okay. So several storms continuing on right now. Still paying attention to several storms. And if you are just joining in, we're still continuing to pay attention to some pretty big storms continuing on right now. So heading back into this radar really quickly here for this northern type storm, 2 inches in diameter for that. The rotation got a little bit more unorganized, so that's at least some good news. But right now, no matter what, the rotation sitting right in there. This is going to head south of Spadford, and then we'll continue to move off into Interstate 81. So could it get its act back together? It could, but the hail is right now the biggest concern with that one. And then we have this tornado that is currently continuing to possibly head through Oneida Lake. Oneida Lake could be our biggest issue right now. Let me make sure doing all right with the streaming. We are still doing good with the streaming. Yep, so there's that tornado right there. Sitting right in there. So could we have a brief water spout? We possibly could, but we'll have to definitely see what we're going to deal with here in the future. So we're still paying attention to several areas that are potentially having these tornado warnings continue. We're wanting to keep an eye out on some of these tornado warnings. We have, definitely these 2 severe thunderstorm warnings over here that have, I believe, tornado possible tag. And it seems like the storm is weakening down. And I will say, it's heading for Burlington, Shelburne. So that's the good news is that storm is starting to weaken down. This one, it seems like any storms that are forming up north and more to the south and coming up north are the ones that have the potential for more of that severe type of weather here. So let's head in right now over here to the future radar once again. It's been a little bit since we've seen the future radar. Taking a look here in the next couple of hours, we have 3 hours out right now, 5 p.m. So actually an hour out from now. Let me head into this actually. I like this one a little bit better here. 6 p.m. here. So the one thing I want to say here, by 6 p.m., look at this. So even though we have these storms right here, we want to keep an eye out on this area right over here. Because this is where we're going to possibly see some more spin-ups happening with some of these storms, and we're going to keep an eye out on that very closely. And you can start to see these pink areas. That's going to be some violent storms that we want to obviously keep an eye out on right now. 8 p.m. tonight, we're going to see maybe less of a tornado type of threat. We probably could still see a couple tornadoes form, but really it's going to be a big, I would feel like a big wind threat and hail threat in these areas right here that are circled. Very large amount of wind and storms could definitely be seen there. And then heading into around 10 p.m. and then maybe into 11 p.m. That's when we're going to start to see the 11 p.m. storm start to weaken down. But down here, over here to the south, we could see Philadelphia. You could be getting some storms here at possibly around midnight. You could be getting some storms around midnight, and then heading through Vermont, some very violent storms, heavy rainfall especially is going to be our biggest fact up here in Maine, but definitely through Vermont, some very dangerous storms could be potentially going through your area. And then we head into midnight, and that's when we start to see these storms start to die down, except for potentially that rainfall that we continue to watch. We're seeing all of this heavy rain over here in the Maine area. This could be definitely a dangerous situation for people that live in Maine. So flash flooding could definitely be a big potential threat here for people in Maine. And then Philadelphia, you could be getting some storms. Same with Washington, D.C. later, maybe a couple storms. But I would say probably around 11 p.m. these storms start to die down very quickly and do not become more favorable for tornadoes. I would say more if there was a tornado past midnight heading into early tomorrow morning, it would be this area specifically. So want to keep an eye out on this definitely. Heading into tomorrow, really by 2 a.m. we're not going to see much, just heavy rainfall in Maine. That's going to be our biggest concern right now for that area. So really just keeping an eye out on some of these storms. You know, we're paying attention, you know, throughout the night. We're going to keep an eye out on some of these storms very closely here. So the tornado warning is still continuing. Let's just go one tornado warning at a time. Let's get back to the tornado warnings here. Tornado warning still continuing. Radar indicated this tornado warning right here. This does have 25 more minutes remaining. This tornado warning does have a little bit more of a tighter rotation trying to form itself back up again here. The question is, though, where is it exactly heading? It does seem like it says it is moving. Let's see. We're moving northeast at 35 miles an hour. So we could be seeing a little bit more of a storm that is heading more in this direction right here, northeast. I want to keep an eye on that. So it will go right over the city and Cornell University. It will go over you guys, just north of you. So that is at least some type of good news for you guys. And then we have this storm right now, our biggest storm that we're paying attention to very closely here, the velocity signature. There it is. So there's a big, pretty nice velocity signature trying to form itself back up again. It did start to get a little bit more broad and started dying down, but now starting to apparently intensify once again. Interstate 81 needs to be paying attention to this storm closely here as we continue to pay attention to the storm moving off over here to the northeast. So keeping an eye on some of these storms. Not much going on with the tornadoes right now, just some very, very tight rotations in certain areas. And then we have the Syracuse one over here. Keeping an eye out on this one. We were tracking this one for a majority of the stream. Definitely maybe a little bit of rotation, broad rotation sitting in there right now. It's going to be heading over Oneida Lake right now. So and then we have this tornado warning over here, 8 minutes remaining. This one did have a powerful strong rotation, now starting to probably not have a strong problem here. I do want to actually get into this really quickly because I accidentally just clicked on this flash flood warning, and now this is a this is definitely something to be paying attention to. Observed flash flood is on the ground here. We could be seeing some potentially dangerous situation with the, whoopsie, I keep clicking the wrong thing. Digital accumulation array. It does seem like, you know, with the flash flood emergency, it's more for the southern part of this flash flood emergency here. But look at, or flash flood warning, sorry, not emergency, but lots of heavy rainfall continuing on, especially in some of these interstates as well. So want to keep an eye out on some of these areas here. You know, up to 2 inches of rain probably in the next, in the last hour and a half or 2 hours. So wanting to keep an eye out on that very closely here, because these storms are continuing to, you know, just dump heavy amounts of rain. This is the aftermath of Beryl, but definitely dumping some heavy amounts of rain. So want to keep an eye out on some of these storms right now. Man, a couple tornado warnings still continuing on. Our main focus is these 3 tornado warnings, or these 3 areas right here specifically. Head back to these more southern ones because I feel like this is the main area where we see some pretty big tornadoes or pretty big rotations. Like right here, getting ready to cross over State Route 41 here. Before heading over here, I don't know if my mic was just completely muted for a second, but before for this storm, we're going to continue to watch it push off to the northeast here. Keep an eye on that. Tully, you are watching a little bit more of a possibly needing to watch this storm very closely, as this storm could be heading right for your direction. So I want to keep an eye out on that really closely here. So nice rotation on that one. Still large hail with that storm. And then we have this one right here. And that one has a little bit more of a type of broad type of rotation here, and that's going to continue to push off to the northeast as well. So Lansing, you guys could be possibly seeing this storm continue to push off to your northeast or to your north. I'm so lost right now apparently, but north, that's where you could be seeing some pretty interesting storms. So I will be coming on later tonight. We were going to be talking about several we'll be paying attention to probably more of a severe weather threat coming on later on tonight. We're going to continue to pay attention to several storms continuing on throughout the night, and then we're also going to talk about the tropical disturbance we do have off the east coast of Florida. So make sure, if you want to, you can join in tonight. It'd be muchly appreciated if you want to join in and watch for the updates. Go over some spaghetti models. We're going to go over some spaghetti models, some models for the storm and anticipate, and we're going to talk about the Atlantic hurricane season for a little bit here. So